Hello students. So welcome to this first particular session on international taxation and transfer pricing. So this particular session students is for the new course students who has opted for paper 6C as an elective paper. The students who will now be appearing in July 2020. Now we all know that the examination has been postponed to July 2020, or those who are appearing in November, or even those who are appearing for May 21, even they can opt for this particular batch. Obviously, the May 21 students will have the concern that what about the changes, sir, amendments which should be there, for which primarily, yes, there are some very key couple of important amendments that has been made by Finance Act 2020, which is applicable to your attempt, for which we will be doing a separate 2 lectures whereby those amendments will be covered. So if supposedly those who are having their examination in May 21 and they want to do it now, they definitely can opt for this particular batch. Now students, this particular batch total there would be approximately around 27 to 30 sessions that will be there. Each of the session would be for 2.5 hours each, 2.5 hours to 3 hours each. That is depending upon the discussion that we are having on that particular day. The batch students is both in a live mode and it would also be on the recorded mode. So far as the live mode is concerned students, primarily the live mode, we have got 2 batches, one in the morning and another in the evening. The first live stream that is going to happen would be on 6th, that would be in the evening for the evening batch, and for the morning students, for the morning batch, it will be on 7th morning, the first live stream. So it will be like the evening students would always be like 12 hours ahead of the morning batch students. So that is fine, that doesn't matter. So this is primarily how we will be having this particular live batch, and those who cannot opt for the live batches which is there in the evening or in the morning, they can definitely opt for the recorded batch as well. Now students, some of the students have said that, sir, how do we ask the queries and all? Now in the live batch which are being there, the queries and all you will be asking we will have like a break time, 15 minutes break or so. At that point of time you'll ask your queries for the discussion that we had it in the session, or after the lecture gets over, primarily we will keep the query time as well even after the lecture gets over, so that on every particular lecture you have got each and every of your query getting sorted out. So each and every queries which you all have will be sorted out in that very lecture itself. Now one more concern that the student had for the live batch was that in any case, if we happen to miss out on our sessions for any practical reasons, so students, every lecture will be put up in the app for a duration of 48 hours. So you will have that 48 hours window, and definitely you can easily access the lecture within that stipulated time, so that if at all you happen to miss out on the lecture, which is not advisable, but definitely we cannot foresee the unwarranted circumstances, so definitely you can easily opt for the recorded lectures, that 48 hours, in that window of 48 hours, and you can see through them. Now students, the base material that we will be having would be the ICI material. However, the ICI material which is being used, this particular material, this particular material has got all the theory provisions. Whatever is the theory provisions are there, they all are being put forth properly. However, the practicals which are given in your ICI module, they are all which are meant for paper 7, meaning thereby the past year question paper of paper 7 is what they have put forth in that module. But what we are going to do, definitely we will do those particular questions which are otherwise meant for paper 7, but our main focus would be the case studies, because in the examination students you are going to find the case study. In fact, as early as your second or third lecture itself, you'll start finding the case studies which I'm going to introduce in every particular lecture. So meaning thereby in those lectures, starting like from second or third class itself, you'll start finding the case studies and all. And accordingly, based on those case studies, because that is how you're going to find your questions in the examination, and you should be in a position to crack the same. So students, the approach would be that of the case studies. Because why case studies? Because this is the practical paper. This is the application oriented paper. The major difference between paper 6C and paper 7 is all about what? This 6C will take you to the real life situation. How in a real life the international taxation primarily you are going to face, that exactly how you're going to get it. Like from section 5 to section 9 to section 9091 to section 195, all this will be covered in one particular case study. That is what primarily is the approach that it would be required, or it will be expected from all of you. And that is what students we are going to do, and we are going to do it very exhaustively. That is how I'm going to design my case studies primarily, and I'm going to put forth before all of you these fantastic case studies so that you have a very firm grip on this particular paper of international taxation and transfer pricing. Students, this paper will not only will help you to score good marks in this elective itself, but also it will facilitate your next paper, which is paper number 7. Paper 7, students, primarily 30 marks. You have got the same topic. Obviously, couple of the topics which are there in 6C are not there in paper number 7, but more or less all the other topics are the same. However, the depth of the question which will be asked in paper 7 is like a CPT level. When you do 6C in a much detailed manner, and then you come to paper 7, which is only for 30 marks, you will suddenly find that the depth which is there in paper 7 is less or lower as compared to what you actually will do with me in paper 6C. So that is how the things would be so far as this particular paper is concerned. Since it's an open book paper, you will have to have an open mind. So there is no such thing that you have to by heart anything. As I told you, the provision would be in front of you, but can you apply the provision in that given case study or not is the game. And this is what I am going to train you. I am going to condition your mind in our upcoming 27 or 30 sessions or so. Students, one more particular point. You all will be, like, since you have the base material, which would be ICI module itself, many students will ask that, sir, we don't have the module right now with us. Very good question. Because of the lockdown situation that we all have, chances are there the students may not have the module in front of us. Don't worry. I will be covering all that particular, like, I will be telling you that today we have covered this page number to this page number. Fine. And as I told you, since I will be making you write a lot in this particular entire thing. So you will have to ensure that whatever we do, you will just copy the same. And then thereafter what? You can then thereafter, after the lecture gets over, you can then thereafter go and read that particular the entire text or the pages which I have already have earmarked. Those I'm talking about those who don't have the module and they have got the e-file, e-PDF of the ICI. So for them, all these students, what they need to do, just copy all what I do it in the class, and after the lecture gets over, whatever the page which I have marked, you just go and read the same. Obviously, those who already have the book with themselves, they don't have to worry at all. They can keep on cross-referring whatever we are discussing in the lecture. Primarily, you will not have much of time because you will also be very much busy either in listening or on jotting down what we do in the class. As I told you, there will also be a lot of case studies which I'm going to give it to all of you, which every one of you will try on your own. Meaning thereby, whatever case study which I will formulate, first try and attempt all of you will make, and then thereafter in the next particular session, whenever we will have the next one, the next very class, at that point of time, you will then compare your solution with what we are going to discuss in the class. This way, it will also help you to be very much grounded so far as your own preparations on this case studies are concerned. This is what, students, this entire entire strategy would be all about. And therefore, on that note, let's then begin with our discussion on this very important subject of international taxation and transfer pricing. Students, my best, like, the reward would be not that you will pass this particular subject with flying colors, but that you will also should make an attempt to get a career in this amazing field of international taxation and transfer pricing. Many of our students are now in a directorship position in the big four, in multinational companies and all. Many of them are also posted abroad. So the real satisfaction to the teacher would always be knowing that after 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, to know that you are holding on to this premium position in the field of international taxation and transfer pricing. It would be very much a joyful feeling that you can all give. Now, students, let's start with this then. So herein, the one particular point which comes in the mind is this, that, sir, international taxation means what? What we have to learn primarily. Students, first of all, understand one thing. Forget for the time being international taxation. Understand how the concept of tax emerges. Students, any tax, whether it is a direct or indirect taxes, these taxes are imposed by the government. Imposing the tax, the government should have a sovereign right. Sovereign right means, obviously, they should have, everyone say that we are the sovereign country, isn't it? Have our own identity, and therefore we have got our own law. So therefore, imposing a tax is a sovereign right of any country. Now, how the country will impose a tax, that is a policy. Now, there are some country who look into what? The territorial nexus for the purpose of tax, for the purpose of taxation. You'll say, sir, what is this territorial nexus? I'll just try to have an open mind right now for the time being. Country like France, Singapore, Panama. Heard of this country? Panama, Hong Kong. They have got the territorial basis of taxation. Now, I'll just put this in a very simple term. Territorial basis of taxation means source-based taxes. What is this source-based taxes? Now, the source-based taxes is irrespective whether you are resident of Singapore or not. We don't care. Irrespective of whether you are a resident of Singapore or not. You will have to pay the tax in Singapore if the source of that income is in Singapore. So I am a resident or I am a non-resident. If my source of the income is in Singapore, I am a resident of Singapore or I am a non-resident of Singapore. If my source of income is where? In Singapore, I have to pay the tax in Singapore. This same approach, students. So I may be, say, resident in case A, I am a resident of Singapore. But I am not earning the income in Singapore. I am earning the income, say, in India. I don't have to pay the tax in Singapore. Because the concept of the taxation that they have is a territorial basis or the source based tax. Same concept is also adopted by France, Hong Kong, Panama. All these are the countries who have in fact adopted the same principle. You earn in that country, whether you are a resident or non-resident, but you earn in these countries, you have to pay the tax. That is one approach of taxation. The way they have the approach that we say source-based tax, or what is the other term? What is the other term? You will also hear the other term to be territorial basis of the taxation. Now, there is another basis of taxation, and there is one more basis of taxation, which is known as global system of taxation. Now, what is this global system of taxation? I think all of you are aware. Global system of taxation. India has in the best example is what? India, UK, and you can many countries are there which follow the global system of taxation. Now, what is this global system of taxation? If you are a resident of our country, if you are what? The resident of our country, then irrespective of what? Irrespective of the source of the income, that is, whether the source of the income is in India or the source of the income is outside India, you will have to make the payment of tax in India. That is what is known as the global system of taxation. Now, when the concept is of global system of taxation, so definitely, like as I told you, the fact that you are a resident, you have to pay on the global basis, on your global income, you have to pay the tax in India. But what about a non-resident? Now, in the global system of taxation, the non-resident primarily will be subject to tax on the basis of what? On the basis of what? On the basis of the source. So the global system of taxation takes the best of everything. Like, if you are a resident, your world income is taxed where? In India. Whereas if you are a non-resident, then having a source in India will only be making you liable. Having a source in India will make you liable to pay the tax where? In India. This is a source base of taxation. In fact, there is one more basis of taxation. Those who will be appearing for May 21, for them it will be a very critical one, which is known as citizen basis of taxation. Citizen basis. If you are a citizen, whether you are a resident or not, we don't care. But if you are a citizen of my country, then you will have to pay the tax in my country. US, up till now, only US was following the citizenship, meaning thereby you are a green card holder, so you are a citizen of of USA. Whether you are a resident of USA or not will now have got no relevance. You are a citizen of USA, you will have to pay the tax in USA. This is the concept that US had. In fact, now India also had, with effect from, but this is not for July attempt students and November attempt students. For May 21 students, there is a concept, the same concept has been introduced even by India, citizen basis of taxation. If you are a citizen of India, then you will have to end up paying tax in India. I will not be discussing it right now, primarily, and I will be discussing those things separately. So those who will have the May 21 session, they should know that, okay, what was the old law, and after knowing the old law, what would be the amendment and what would be the law forward. So that I will be putting in the amendment lectures, and that will be different thing. Now, that is how it is. So let's only focus on the first two scheme. What is the scheme? Source based tax, and another is what? Another is the global system of taxation. Now, this is where the challenge will arise. So India has got a sovereign right to tax the income. Same way Singapore has got the sovereign right to tax it. Singapore model is that of the source based tax. India model is a global system of taxation. So if an Indian resident will earn income, if the Indian resident will earn income where? In Singapore. So whether they will have to pay the tax in Singapore? Whether they will have to pay the tax in Singapore? And the answer is yes. Now, why is it? Why they have to pay the tax in Singapore? Because as per the Singapore domestic law, as per what? As per the Singapore domestic law, any person, whether resident or non-resident of Singapore, if they have earned the income in Singapore, then they will have to pay the tax in Singapore. They will have to pay the tax in Singapore. That is what primarily is the domestic law of Singapore. How about India? In the same case, what about India? In the same case, what about India? If you are a resident, and in my example, indeed he is a resident, then your global income is taxable. So what happens now? So as per the tax law of Singapore, he will have to pay the tax on the same income in Singapore. And whereas as per the domestic tax law in India, he will also be subject to what? Subject to the taxes on the same income. And this is what will give rise to double taxation. And definitely as we move forward, students, not in today's class, I'm just giving you the bird's eye view. As we move forward, primarily we will see how this double taxation will have to be resolved. and to resolve it, we have to then crack what the treaties. We will have to then crack the treaties. In fact, students, let me tell you, to all of you, we will do live treaty. I will be giving you important treaties, and we will be looking into the treaty also. Apart, because there is a specific topic, OECD model, UN model, primarily. Those particular chapter that has been there, we will do them, but in a practical way. See, we'll see how the treaty, actual treaty looks like, so that the fear of the treaty will go away. And while you primarily learn, you will also end up doing that important topic, the most important topic. So students, this is what this entire discussion will be all about. The discussion about how do we resolve the glaring issue of double taxation. And this arises because each country follows a different approach of taxation. The world of taxation would be so simple. The world of taxation would be very simple if every country would have followed one scheme. And what is that one? The source basis of taxation. If all the country would have done the same source scheme of taxation which Singapore, Hong Kong, Panama and others, France, they are doing, then there would not have been an issue at all. Why? You earn in my country, only then you have to pay the tax, irrespective whether you are a resident or non-resident. The challenge arises because of the different tax system followed by different jurisdiction. And this is precisely where the double taxation on the same income arises, which is this double taxation, students, arises on account of a cross-border transaction. Cross-border transaction means what? Transaction relating to supply of goods or service or other financial transaction, etc. So, and that is from one country to another, and on that, whatever income that arises because of the two different scheme of taxation which is there in those two countries, whatever income arises in a cross-border transaction because of two different system of taxation adopted by two different countries, that results into what? Results into a double taxation, and for which, as we will proceed further, we will be looking into how do we resolve this double taxation, both one in our domestic law and thereafter in the treaties. So the base of this, students, international taxation is the first one. What is the base of your international taxation? The base of the international taxation is your domestic law. The first and the foremost thing that you have to learn is the domestic law. You have to find whether, why is it so? Because any income which is there, first of all, it has to be there that the income that you are earning, whether that income is subject to charge, to tax under that act or not. So, as I told you in my example, come back to my example. Which example? This person was in India primarily, and then thereafter in the other particular case there was Singapore. So he had made an investment where? In Singapore. So making an investment in Singapore, and then thereafter from that he is getting a return. So he is getting a return. So the base that we have to follow primarily the domestic law of India and the domestic law of Singapore. Now, as I told you, like here he was the person which in my example, if I have to say Mr. A. Now Mr. A, primarily we have to see whether Mr. A of India, whether for him in the domestic law of India, whether that income return means, this return means what? Income, whether this income is charged to tax or not. So once it has been charged to tax, so which is the domestic law that we will look into it, students? Which is the domestic law that we are going to look into it? So the domestic law that we are going to follow in this regard would be the Income Tax Act 1961. Exactly. So this would be the Income Tax Act 1961 is what we all will follow in this regard. The Income Tax Act 1961. Income Tax Act 1961. Similarly, the same particular approach needs to be dealt in Singapore to verify whether the same income is subject to tax in Singapore as well or not. This will result into a double taxation. So this is what will result into a double taxation, and that exactly is the point. So in this context, students, the double taxation primarily, as I told you, first and the foremost thing is what to be considered, whether the income is charged to tax in the respective domestic law or not. So our focus presently would be in Income Tax Act. So how an income is charged. So therefore, how an income is charged. So the basic question is how an income is chargeable under the Income Tax Act. That is the first and the foremost question. Income is chargeable under the Income Tax Act. I will just now mention Act. For which section you have to refer? Which section is what that you have to refer? Here, students, you have to refer what? Which section? Section number 4. The charging section. The charging section. I will also make you refer from the module also, section number 4, which is in a very typical way that they have made a reference of this. However, I'll make you explain that. That is not that technical. But right now, for the purpose of simplicity, to understand whether my income is chargeable to tax or not, I will be referring section 4. As I told you, what it is referred as? It is referred as the charging section. So the charging section under the Act, section 4, what it says in this regard, students, what it says. So here it says that in a simple word presently, I will again refer you what is written in the module, but presently we'll just refer in a simple word the total income of a person for a previous year is charged to tax. So students, the charge is on what? The charge is on what? The charge is on the total income. The charge is on the total income of a person for a previous year will be subject to charge in the next following AY. So the entire factor that we have to decode is the total income. Now, what is this total income, students? Primarily, so the taxable event as far as the income tax, if you have to be subject to be charged under the Income Tax Act, the domestic law of India, the taxable event that should be in existence has to be the total income. So what do you mean by the term total income? This is one of the most important term so far as the income tax law is concerned. The most important term. So what it says, primarily, it is actually primarily into two parts. I will refer this into two parts. The definition of total income, by the way, this definition is some students ask, do we have a definition of total income? Yes, we do have. And it is defined in section 2 clause 45. Now students, as far as the definitions are concerned, you will say, sir, which definitions to be remembered? Primarily, see, you don't have to buy heart anything. As I told you, you always have the book at your disposal. So primarily you don't have to buy heart it, but yes, at least which definition you have to be very carefully, you have to analyze it. Which are those definitions? That definition, students, which is an exhaustive definition. Which definition? That definition which is an exhaustive definition. So any exhaustive definition which is there, you will have to analyze it very carefully, because the meaning of that term is the meaning which is given only under the Act. No other meaning can be adopted so as to understand that particular term. No other meaning can be adopted so as to understand that particular term. Only what has been defined in the Act is what has to be adopted to understand the meaning of that particular term. So therefore, the total income definition, what it says, it means total income as defined. It means what? It means income which falls within the scope of section 5 and so this is my part A and I'll write part B, but as I told you, sorry, this is a part A and part B, but as I told you students in this context that they are one and the same, not much of difference will be there so far as this interpretation is concerned, but I'm just splitting the definition in as part A and part B. So part B students, herein part A, income, which falls within the scope of section 5 and which is computed in the manner laid down under the Act, which is computed in the manner laid down under the Act. Okay, primarily this part students is all about the computation, about how do you compute the total income, but which is that income that you are going to compute in the manner which is laid down under the Act? Which is that income that you are going to compute in the manner which is laid down under the Act? So only that income which falls within the scope of part A, only that income which falls within the scope of part A is what you will compute in the manner which is laid down under the Act. So first and foremost step in the process of determining the total income, which is a taxable event under the domestic law, which is essential so as to proceed under the international tax law. So the first and the foremost step is to determine whether you have an income which will fall within the scope of section 5, because only if it falls within the scope first, therefore there has to be an income, and that income should fall within the scope of section 5. Only that this is done, that you will go then to the computational part. The chargeability is attracted, and once it has been done, then you go to the next part, and I'll write this to be the qualifying amount, QA. The qualifying amount, that is the amount which falls within the scope of section 5, is what will be taken forward for the purpose of computation in the manner which is laid down under the Act. In the manner which is laid down under the Act. This is exactly what you are going to do. This is your total income. So let's start looking into it by one. Students, you will start copying this one. I'll just give you a couple of minute time. So those who have yet to copy, just since this is, I think, the first video is there in the YouTube, so accordingly you can just take it, rewind it, and ensure to do this particular copy, because whatever I'm going to write, I'll give you the time, but since it is in the YouTube already, so you can just ensure to first copy it down, and then we'll take it forward. You take it forward. So students, here as I told you, there has to be the existence of an income. So let's try to focus on what you mean by the term income. Now, as far as income is concerned, students, so here for this A part, I require an income, and then once the amount can be considered to be an income, the next step is about what? Whether this income falls within the scope of section 5. So let's look upon to this concept of what? The income. What is the income, students? Think about it. What do you mean by the term income? Understand, even a non-resident primarily, well, whosoever it be, what I told you, student, the very first step in the process of international taxation is what? The said amount should be chargeable to tax under the domestic law. And that is what we need to first understand, the domestic law, all the relevant points, procedures, sections which has the element of chargeability under the Act, those provision needs to be analyzed thoroughly, because as I told you, unless you get stuck under the, unless that amount gets stuck, unless that amount get targeted in the domestic law for the purpose of taxation, you cannot proceed in the next step of international taxation. The first and the foremost, therefore, and that's how the module has been designed. So they have made a lot of emphasis on the domestic provisions. If you see the way they have designed, although they don't tell to the students why we are doing this, why the why is not there. And that is why students also find a challenging task that the module does not give why. Why we are reading this section, we are reading it because this is their topic. No, we should always understand why of it. Why we are reading this primary, why section 4 we have to read in a subject like international taxation, transfer pricing. Why we have to do this? Because as I told you, the very first step is this. This is what we are bringing down in class, students. Primary. So that you understand the basis of reading anything, the very objective. If you have to do something, there has to be some sense. Otherwise, the same provision is going on and on. We are reading it, we are understanding it. But why we are doing it, we don't know. And if you don't know why you are doing it, you definitely will never be in a position to apply. The entire, if you have to develop your brain, students, in any particular thing, you should understand why I'm doing this at first place. So that your life would be meaningful. Otherwise, it's a meaningless life. Just setting your target, getting qualified, and thereafter, nothing. So students, this is one thing which we will try to drill upon. That why we are doing this particular thing, why we are focusing on section 4, what is the need of it. Any case it is there in paper 7 also, but why we have to do it over here? Because in international taxation, the very first step is to check or ascertain whether the income is falling within the scope of chargeability under the respective domestic law. That is the first thing. So students, in this context, as I told you, first and the foremost step in our approach, part A is the game changer, because this is where we have to focus on. Amount that arises has to fall within the ambit of income. The amount which arises has to fall within the ambit of income. So our next and the logical question is, what is income? What is income, students? Say, what do you mean by the term income? So income, students, is an amount. Be careful. General, as a layman I'm talking right now. I'm just ensuring that today's session will not be keeping that technical. I'll keep it brief and short, primarily. And thereafter we will just get in our next particular segment, wherein the live lecture will begin. Then we will look into all the technicalities one by one. So students, in this context of this point of income, what do you mean by income? So income, students, is an amount which arises from a definite source. Income is what? Income is an amount which arises from the definite source. I'm talking just like a layman right now. Therefore, if, please pay attention to this, if employment is the source, then salary is the income. If the house property is the source, then rent is the income. If business is the source, profit is the income. If investment is the source, say interest or dividend is the income. If articleship is the source, stipend is the income, isn't it? So what is income? Income always primarily is an amount which arises from a definite source. Therefore, students, if there is a source to an amount, there is two important characteristics that will then emerge so far as that amount is concerned. Two important characteristics that will emerge so far as that amount is concerned. And those two characteristics are, number one, that there has to be a regularity of earning that amount, and number two is about certainty. So two things are regularity of earning the amount and certainty of receiving the amount. What is this regularity? Like, as I told you, if there is an employment, so is there a regularity and certainty? Both get satisfied? Yes, both get satisfied. There would be what? At the end of the month, I will be receiving the same. House property also as per the agreement. Profit, although I'm not sure of it, but the fact that I'm doing a business, in fact, I will close my books and then I will compute how much profit I have earned, because the businessman does the business every day, and in everyday transaction he keeps on earning the profits. So the students, the point which I'm trying to draw upon as a layman, if I have to say what is your income, so what is that you will look into it? You look into it, what is your source from which the amount arises? Something which is definite, something which is at least permanent. So from that source, what is the amount which is arising? That amount is what will be considered to be an income. So income is nothing but a revenue receipt. What is revenue receipt? Same thing what I just now spoken about it. An amount which arises from a definite source is what you mean by the term revenue receipt. And all the revenue receipts primarily have got this two features. Which are those two features? Which are those two features? Regularity and certainty. These are the two features of that particular revenue receipt. Now accordingly, students, income therefore is what? Revenue receipt. RR. What is this RR? The same thing, revenue receipt. However, what? However, over a period of time, what happened was the government wanted to expand the tax base. The tax base, they thought of expanding the tax base because the budget kept on increasing year after year. So therefore, the source was limited in the country from which the person were getting the income. So what to do? The best way is to expand your tax net. One of the way, not the only way, is to introduce or to target those amount which otherwise is not an income. To target what? To even target those amount which otherwise cannot be considered as an income. And the example is capital receipt. Now, what is this capital receipt? Just now I told you about the revenue receipt. So capital receipt is just an opposite of the same. That is an amount which does not have a definite source, or which lacks those two important features of certainty and regularity. That amount can be considered to be a capital receipt. So a lottery, a gift, can that be considered to be a capital receipt? Yes. Why is it so? Because they lack the characteristics or feature of the income. That is the revenue receipts. They don't have the regularity, and then there is no certainty attached to that. But is that the income? And the answer is yes. Why? Why it is an income? Because it is defined as an income. So therefore, students, income is revenue receipt. That is what? What is revenue receipt? An amount which arises from a definite source. That is one. And the second one is about what? Capital receipt. Now what is, sorry. This is, I'll say, specified capital receipt, not all of them. That is one which is defined under section 2 clause 24 as income. So they are defined. So why I'm writing specified? Not all of them, students. Not all of them are considered as what? Are considered as an income. So only those which has been defined as an income, that is what will be subject to charge to tax. So students, herein, in this regard, primarily the specified capital receipt which has been there. The specified capital receipt which has been there. I'll just write an example over here. Example is gift, lottery, etc. Fine, students. So this is precisely what is an income. So in the process of what? Process of decoding this part A, because part A is the game. What I told you, international taxation. To start on international taxation, first we have to look into our domestic tax. That whether that amount is it chargeable towards that respective domestic law or not. And for the purpose of chargeability, we look into the charging section. As far as the charging section under the Act is concerned, which is the charging section, which is section number 4. In that section number 4, what is the taxable event? The taxable event is the taxable event is the total income. Again, I'm repeating, students, I'm going to make you refer primarily that particular section 4 from the Act also. We are going to decode them. That is not a worry, but try to get hold of the concept. So the taxable event is total income. How to determine the total income, or what is the total income, for which first we check out, because it's a taxable event, and definitely we cannot do it casually, because it and your life and death depend upon whether the amount is getting within the radar of section 4 or not. If it falls within the radar or within the scope of section 4, then that's it. It gets targeted under the Income Tax Act. And once it is getting targeted under that domestic law, then subsequent consequences will follow, and it will reach, if it is as a result of the cross-border transaction. If the income is as a result of what? If the income is as a result of the cross-border transaction, then this will definitely have a far-reaching impact, and it will give rise to a study or analysis of the international taxation. So students, in this context, income is what is the first thing that we have dealt with it in the process of determination of total income. What is the next step? The next step is what? That income should also fall within what? The scope of section 5. So in our part A, the next particular point to be discussed is what? Is about that income should fall. That income should fall within the scope of section 5. Now, the scope of total income which is chargeable to tax under the Act this is based on what? Based on the residential status of a person. And this is where you come to know that residential status of a person. This is where you come to know that the India has following what? India is following the global system of taxation. The moment you have got their scope of the total income, which is chargeable to tax under the Act. So it is not, whenever you go to the worldwide tax law, because see, tomorrow students, you may be working on this, and then you will be forced to read a Singapore. I have read it. You will also be told in a company you cannot say that, but in my syllables in final C I have read it only Income Tax Act, and you are telling me to read a Singapore tax law in your office at that point of time. So see, that I don't know. If you say so, then he'll say that today is your last day, isn't it? You are educated or not? Do you know how to read a tax law? These are these pertinent questions, and that's what exactly you should know. That look, once I am reading the domestic law, here the moment the scope of the chargeability of the total income is based on what? Based on the residential status of a person. It means you should understand that that country is following the global system of taxation. Because what will happen? What will happen here? As we all know, students, as we all know here, as in a simple word, right now today, resident or non-resident, between resident and non-resident students. If you are a resident, then what happens? World income. World income is taxable. Whereas if you are a non-resident, now world income, that is what I said it, global scheme of taxation. If you are a resident, then the world income is taxable. And as I told you, in the global scheme of tax, definitely for a non-resident, even this is also captured. What they say, if you are a non-resident, then only the following two income, which will be taxable, we all know, accrued or deemed to accrued. In India or received in India. Again, I am repeating, students. In the global scheme of taxation, definitely their target is the resident primarily, because the moment you are a resident, in that the entire world income is taxable. Now, however, in that global scheme of taxation, if you happen to be a non-resident, so definitely your world income, they don't have the right. For a non-resident, they will definitely will not have a right to tax their global income. So what they do for a non-resident, definitely they will say the source-based tax. That is only if you have a territorial nexus with India, meaning either your income is accrued in India or deemed to have accrued in India, or your income may have been received in India, only then that non-resident will be charged to tax. So the global scheme of taxation technically is what we will have to look into it from a resident point of view. In Singapore tax law, what I told you, students, you will not find in this way that whether you are a resident or non-resident, they will be having the scope of chargeability based on what? Whether you have earned the income in Singapore or not. That time you will realize, okay, fine. What is important is the earning should be in that country. The source of that income should be in that country, irrespective of who you are, resident or non-resident. That is not a criteria for the purpose of chargeability under the Act. For the purpose of chargeability under the Act. So students, this is exactly how it happens. Now, therefore, before we proceed further, the next step primarily that we need to do is about what? To decide, as you all know, in the global scheme of taxation, which is based on the residential status of a person and not necessarily on the basis of source, which is based on what? Residential status. This therefore becomes the most important point, because it's a global scheme of, and which would be based on the residential status. So therefore, to determine the residential status, students, will be the most important thing. And which is a section in which we have to determine the residential status, and that section, students, is section number 6. Section number 6. So this is what primarily, and I think all of you have also done it in your IPCC. At least the individual part of your section 6 is what you have done. May 21, students, in section number 6, there is an amendment. And that is what I told you for May 21, students. The citizen base taxation has been introduced. But what is that? I will not be doing it in this sessions or the sessions coming for further. I will be doing in separate particular amendment lectures. As I told you, 2 class, maximum 3 class, depending if I have to do case study, I'll do 3 particular lecture, but that will be done separately. Now students, what you will have to do, you will have to go to the ICI website, www.ici.org. in the student segment primarily, please ensure the knowledge portal. In the final new course, paper 6C, for the study material, you will in fact first download this 2 and 3. First topic is transfer pricing. Obviously, you will download all the topics, but what is required immediately for us would be 2 and 3. So this is what we are starting presently herein. Now these are what? Introduction, the basic, this source based and resident based. So technically you will, if you want, primarily you can read down this particular part on the introduction side. More importantly, students, now what you people will be doing in this regard, before you start with the next particular session, this 2.3, which is in respect of what? The charge of the income tax. So this 2.3 is what you all have to take into account. This is what I have dealt with it. Just read it once. And second homework would be, homework means what? You just read it, because tomorrow, in any case, the first thing that which I'm going to do in my next class is the analysis of this. Section 6, what I had told you just now, that residential status is the most important thing. in the global scheme of taxation, because based on residential status that the income is determined. Whereas if you are a resident, then your global income is charged to tax, and if you are a non-resident, then only the two categories of income which we have already defined will be charged to tax. So I just want all of you to do in this section 6, which is the point, residential status of individual. That's all of it, because individual you all have taken into account in your IPCC level, isn't it? So though only the individual part, just read it once. See, you'll, even though you don't read it, doesn't matter, but your understanding in first reading, and then I will be stepping in my particular discussion. So that is the most important thing which I want you to do. And in the next session, which we will have, in that I will be giving you one case study. One case study you will be getting it, and you have to solve. Every session you will have a homework. You will have to solve that particular case study, and based on that, then the third class that we will have, first I will solve that case study with all of you, and then we'll move forward. But everyone will have to solve them in this regard. So students, just now, what you will do, download this particular PDF file if you don't have the physical book, and please read that particular section number 4, charging section, and section number 6, which is here in section number 6, in this context, residential status, in this only for individual. Fine, please do that, students. So first session I'm keeping it short and simple, and then from this, for the second particular point, the second particular class, we will have this. As I told you, for the live batch students, all who you are live batch students, tomorrow the evening batch will have the first live session, and thereafter the next would be the morning one. So that is how we will be doing it, and accordingly 1.5 hours, 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes, or 1 hour 1.5 hours, we'll have the break after this every lecture. And in the break time, 10-15 minutes, the break time which has been given to you, you will ask the query, and after the lecture gets over as well, you will definitely will ask the queries and ensure that all the queries are being sorted out. RT batch students, again I'm repeating, the RT means the recorded batch. You will have your WhatsApp group, wherein the WhatsApp group you can ask your queries, and this is how we will just take it forward, and we'll try to do it in the most exhaustive manner. Okay, see you then students in the next particular class. Thank you very much.